We don't see the need for future legislation. Is that clear enough?
What's up, guys? We're back at it again with another wonderful legislative session for y'all. Our faves, Wayne Harper and Christofferson, have blessed us with an absolute banger of a bill. This time, they want to try and undo expensive street safety and bike infrastructure projects. The state is no longer content merely to stop new bike infrastructure and traffic calming and crosswalks and whatever. They want to force the city to tear out stuff that already exists. Toronto crossed this line in 2024 when Ontario Premier Doug Ford passed a law forcing the city to rip up protected bike lanes on Bloor Street, Yonge Street, and University Avenue. The whole thing is currently in court on some constitutional grounds, but we don't have that defense here in the States. The streets under threat here in Salt Lake are 200 South, which we'll review the data on with guest Troy from Sweet Streets, 300 West, a major shopping destination, and 400 South, one of the city's very few and very precious east-west crossings. All of these roads have been substantially improved in the last several years, and they represent a quantum leap forward in cycling in Salt Lake City. If you care at all about safety on our streets, or even just responsible spending, we've got to nip this bill in the bud. Let's start on 200 South, where the city cut the ribbon on its first ever real bus lanes just over a year ago. Construction on this one was a bit of a mess, and it dragged on forever. The delay was not without reason, though. The city and Dominion, now Enbridge, had to replace an entire gas line, rebuild the entire roadbed, and install all these bus islands and other protective infrastructure. The 200 South Improvement Project was paid for by the 2018 Funding Our Future bond initiative, so it represents the direct will of the people. The street serves 10 different bus routes, bikes, and all manner of active transportation, and car traffic to and from all sorts of businesses and events. The bus lanes allow buses to maintain a quick and reliable schedule, even in heavy traffic. The bike lanes are wide enough to use safely and come with huge intersection improvements. And the general purpose lanes do the same thing they always have. And we cannot stress this point enough. Troy?
Hi, I'm Troy Saltiel. I'm representing Sweet Streets, which is a nonprofit advocacy organization based in Salt Lake City. We essentially advocate for people-first streets, so that's mobility options as well as increasing safety and just the general livability of streets.
And this year, mostly not getting run over just for going outside.
Yeah, 2026 is the year for not getting run over.
Yeah. So Troy, tell us about what's changed on 200 South since after the city switched out 2 of the general purpose lanes for dedicated bus lanes.
Yeah, so last year there was a different bill called Senate Bill 195.
By the same guy, Wayne Harper,
same
keep an eye out for
sponsor.
him.
And they required a mobility study that UDOT has conducted. UDOT actually presented on this in October of 2025, and they found that there was insignificant change in the flow of traffic on 200 South.
So maybe the city might have some idea what they're doing, and even if you don't care about these new bus lanes, which have had pretty significant impacts for bus reliability, and these bike lanes, which have been a game changer for getting to all the businesses on this street. Even if you don't care about those, the traffic is flowing the same as it always has.
Yeah, and
it's a non-issue.
There are benefits to this as well. So for the people using transit, using the bike lanes, they're no longer competing for you in traffic or in the limited parking spaces on the street.
No buses merging in and out. The buses just stop in the bus lane.
And
drive
so
right past them.
The new street here is actually much more predictable than it used to be. So now there's the bus lane, which actually does provide for right turns for drivers as well. So it also allows drivers to pull out after they've been parking. So there are actually a lot of benefits to making the street more predictable. And so it is making it safer really for everyone.
Yeah, and even with all the new stuff that's come in on this street, really it does a lot in a very finite amount of space. The city kept continuous parking and loading zones along nearly the entire length of the project. So you can still get your freight deliveries, you can still have your passenger pickups. There's even still quite a bit of street parking.
Yeah, so really this project just enhanced safety for everyone, made the traffic flow better.
Yeah. So really there are no material downsides. The state studied it. It's chill.
And the new bill that is up, which is Senate Bill 242 for this session, this one is actually contemplating a mitigation of the effects of traffic calming, is the way that they call it.
I don't know what effects they're even talking about.
Yeah, so it's unclear what they're trying to point at. From the sponsors' comments, they are pointing to some of the islands that were built for the bus stops and to increase the safety of the intersections.
I wouldn't be
They're-
surprised
yeah.
if they're going to come out after the median crosswalk islands too, which I would think the drivers should love, because it means if somebody is crossing the street, they have a safe space to pause and see you, or pause and if you're blowing by, wait for you, that sort of thing. It really makes the crosswalks a lot more predictable and easier to manage from the car side.
Yeah, so at this point, they're kind of scraping at just the handful of business comments that were complaining about the inconvenience of those islands. And that's not to say that they're actually a problem. They're a minor change and something that they need to adjust to.
Yeah. And again, there's still plenty of space for freight loading on this street. I'm all for the city making like adjustments to the ratio of like loading to like 10-minute parking to paid parking or whatever, but the space is there.
And I do want to mention that a lot of the islands are actually mountable curbs, so freight can definitely run them over without any issue.
Yeah, no issue whatsoever. These are some very, very low islands. Next on the chopping block is Third West. The city recently, literally months ago, extended the bikeway 5 blocks north. Now 5 blocks doesn't seem like much, but the extra distance makes access to shopping and dining on Third West much easier and much safer. Bikes now have easy access to the city's next park, a plethora of local businesses, and the massive Post District development right here, which was previously kind of islanded off by the freeway roads. It also creates a direct and easy to understand connection up to 4th South, which we'll talk about next, and it really opens up a lot more of the granary to multimodal access. That's all well and good for residents and commuters on 2, or 6, wheels, but what about drivers? Well, north of the freeway ramps, the city kept all the lanes that carry vehicle traffic to and from the freeway. This came with a reduction in street parking on 1 block face, which is frankly more off-street parking than businesses, and a redesign of 1 turn queue. Further south, the city traded out 1 lane in each direction to actually increase the amount of street parking, on top of adding the bike path. Third is a mind-bogglingly wide street. This matches up with the 5-lane profile that's long existed south of 9th, and it's more than enough capacity once the drivers just headed to the freeway have turned off. This project has massively increased safety for people walking and rolling, and the impacts on people driving are immaterial at best. If you thought the Third West bikeway kept out of the way, wait until you see its partner project over here on 4th South. This bikeway, which added a crucial, safe, multimodal crossing of Salt Lake's east-west divide, did not require removing so much as a single lane. Not one. That's a 7-lane profile on the entire project. They did take out 1 minor side street right turn lane to improve bike access to 5th West and Salt Lake Central over there, but this is opposite the bike path, not really structural to it either, and does not impact freeway users. How did the city pull this off, you may ask? They took out street parking on 1 block with ample free off-street parking from 2nd West to 3rd West, and they just shifted the lanes. When the project was originally pitched, I didn't really understand how they were going to squeeze a 14-foot bike path onto the huge bridge over the rail yard, but it turns out that for a 30-mile-an-hour bridge, it had a lot of extra space that wasn't really contributing anything. Now, they have 6 10-foot lanes, plus generous shoulders on the bridge, and a mix of 10 and 11-foot lanes elsewhere. Tangent. This bill would also make it quite difficult for the city to narrow a lane below 12 feet and ban any narrowing below 11 feet, a mandate that would have prevented the 4th South Trail from being built in the first place. This ban is completely at odds with design guidelines from all the National Highway Standards organizations. First, the AASHTO Green Book states that on urban arterials with stoplights and speed limits under 45 miles an hour, quote, narrower lane widths are normally adequate and have some advantages, close quote. This text has been in there for a few decades. The book also states 10-foot lanes may be used under 35 away from trucks and buses. Second, the Transportation Research Board notes that although there is limited research, lane width alone has a very limited effect on vehicle speeds and theoretical throughput. Third, NACTO recommends 10-foot inner lanes with an 11-foot outer lane for trucks and buses, which is exactly what the city built in this case. Harper's legislation is completely unscientific and is actively in denial of both historical and current industry best practices. None of these 3 projects have any real impact on the flow of traffic or how qualitatively easy or difficult it is to drive downtown. Harper himself admitted, and I quote, "The traffic volume and flow is working good," unquote. So why in the name of heck does Senator Harper's new bill require the city to enter into an agreement with UDOT that includes plans and timelines for the city to mitigate the impacts of traffic calming measures and highway reduction strategies previously implemented on 3rd West from 4th South to 9th South, 2nd south from 3rd west to 3rd east, and 4th south from West Temple to Interstate 15. I would love to know what impacts need to be mitigated and what the hell mitigation even means. Since the 2nd south bus lanes took the place of former general purpose lanes, the project qualifies as a highway reduction strategy under last year's bill, but it doesn't seem to have reduced anything except vehicle travel times. The state's own study cites overwhelmingly negligible impacts to vehicle travel across all the studied projects, and again, slight improvements in the case of 2nd South. And that's not mentioning the obvious and concrete, benefits for the overall safety and mobility of the bus and bike users. Clearly, Harper did not get what he wanted out of UDOT's SB195 mandated study, so he's taking things into his own hands and bypassing the state's expert staff and any sort of usual transportation planning process. Given that there's nothing negative to mitigate, I'm genuinely scared of what Harper intends for Salt Lake City's newest streets. The bill is designed to force a lopsided negotiation between UDOT and the city over what will or won't be torn up, leaving a lot of room for string pulling and closed-door politicking in a way that direct language in the bill cannot. If Harper were to be upfront about whatever it is that he wants to force the city to do on Salt Lake City property with Salt Lake City tax dollars, we would at least have the opportunity to read it in his bill and ask our own elected representatives and committee members for a different approach. Instead, the good senator from Taylorsville has opted to disguise his intentions with bureaucratic vagary, and thereby he has robbed the people of their right to have a say. That means right now it's up to you, me, and whoever else we can pull in to work with our wonderful advocacy organizations to nip this bill in the bud.
Yeah, so we're currently organizing and getting all the information together that you need to know what to do. If you've never been up to the Capitol before, we got you. We have all the information on our website. So if you go to sweetstreets.org, all one word, .org, there is a banner at the top. That link will be updated with the latest information if you just go up there and click on it. And then
Yeah, so go to the Sweet Streets action page, and this is going to be a tricky bill to get because, again, Senator Harper is trying to bypass as much of the legislative process as we possibly can. So the 2 points of action are the Senate committee meeting, the Senate Transportation, and a bunch of other stuff, I guess, committee up at the Capitol this Monday, I think the day after this video goes up, February 9th at 3:40 p.m. If you can be there in person, wonderful. There will be lots of other people. We're trying to fill this room with people to tell Senator Harper, no, this is an unscientific, crazy overreach provision that you've jammed into this bill. We the people do not want this. And then the other avenue, once the bill makes it to the House, is the House Transportation Committee.
Yeah, so it's really imperative that we get to this now while it's still in committee. This is where most of the changes usually happen. And I just want to be clear too that this is a bill that will pass. It's the Transportation Omnibus Bill. So I just want to reiterate, it will pass, but we want to amend it and we want to strike out the addition of Chapter 20 that's at the end of the bill. We just want to cut that whole bit out there that's talking about Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and if you're going to the meeting, if not, either way, email your own state senator and representative because they can help work to prepare the substitute that needs to be presented in these committees, because that's one of the tricky parts is Harper chairs the Senate Transportation Committee. He's presenting his bill first, so he's going to present this bill and expect the committee to take action on it immediately, so they need to be armed and prepared with their counter action because they can't draft a whole new substitute bill on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's enough people raising concerns about the bill, it can be circled around and kind of held in the committee and then brought back up with a new substitute. Could be substituted out right away. We won't really know until we get there on Monday.
But yeah, go to the Sweet Streets website right now. You don't need to watch the rest of this video. It's just the credits. And get emailing. Okay. Thanks again, Troy.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody. So that's the main thing for this video. As advocates for safe streets, we can survive, well, most of us can. Around a dozen and sometimes more Salt Lakers die each year out on those streets. A lull, a dormant period in city street work. The Livable Streets program has a lot to do on what this bill wants to designate as Tier 3 or Tier 4 neighborhood streets, so many of which need bare minimum improvements just to keep speeding drivers from injuring or killing their own neighbors. The bike network is still full of glaring gaps and obviously dangerous crossings, but it's come really far in the past couple of years thanks to decades of hard work by advocates, city engineers, and Salt Lake City voters. What we can't survive as a city is crossing the same line as Toronto and being forced to start spending money to tear up safe infrastructure. We cannot go back. I should note that the city does have a moratorium on excavating newly reconstructed streets for 7 years, and that's really just intended for utility work, let alone completely ripping up concrete that could last 50. If you, viewer, put your time and effort towards any Safe Streets issue this session, it should be this. Again, link to the Sweet Streets page in the description where you can find your senator, representative, and their contact information, as well as some primers on how to write them. We might do a part 2 on this video soon, dedicated to Harper's grabs at street parking and his walking back of a major compromise made in last bill's year to limit the last year's bill to limit the affected study area. This video covered a mere 12 lines of SB242. If you want to read more now, the bill is in the description. Scroll down to the bottom. It's a doozy. Great, that's probably good enough, and now we cut to drone footage that Alex and I got at 8 a.m. this morning. Why do we have a part-time legislature? 1 week is not enough time between a bill being released and litigated. It's so loud! Like, perfectly safe, but very loud.